virtual reality as a medium in its very early days. So we think that there's a lot of room to experiment in storytelling. This one is being published later this month. This is my favorite one of all. We partnered with NASA and used the footage from their trip to Pluto to bring our audience to the grounds of Pluto. So you're standing there at the foot of Pluto's Himalayas and turn around and the moons are hanging behind you. It's extraordinary, and it's, I think, our best example of this was a story that is best told in virtual reality. It's not a gimmick. This is the way to use this new medium. But for all this talk about VR, it's worth saying that the Times isn't particularly interested in virtual reality for virtual reality's sake. We're interested in new kinds of storytelling. We're interested particularly in visual storytelling. We think that the shift towards mobile is going to lead to more and more visual-first stories. And so VR is just one piece of that. These are just like some short clips of visual work. There's nothing to do with virtual reality that the Times has done in the past year. And this is where we see VR going. It's a piece of this, but it's by no means, the only way to tell stories. Each of these could be told through VR, and many of them will be, but they don't all have to be by any means. So is anybody watching this stuff? Yes, we've been pretty heartened. This was the most successful product launch in Times history. More people downloaded the VR app than the traditional New York Times news app when it first launched. We're since past 600,000 downloads, which we think makes the NYT VR app the highest, the most downloaded virtual reality app on the phone. People are spending more time with VR than they are with traditional news content, which is heartening for us because engagement is the coin of the realm for us these days in mobile. And there's repeat visits. People are spending time in there. They're watching films over and over again. We've been experimenting with how to distribute these films. When we have a new film, we put it on the homepage, we put it in newsletters, on social, kind of trying to reach people all across the gamut. And we approach each film as being most people's first experience in virtual reality. So we want each film to kind of keep that revelatory feeling. That's all. I wanted to leave time for questions, so I'd love to hear if there are any. This is a short little film we commissioned for the launch. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I kind of can't wait to watch the sort of the Pluto thing, being a bit of a sort of space nerd. But that just sounds amazing. So you're getting traction. You're getting kind of 1.3 million views. How are you funding it? Where's the money coming from? Is it sponsorship or?
Yeah, it's
because the app's free, isn't it? The app's free.
The app is free. Yeah, it's through advertising. So we have advertisers who are either sponsoring some of the films or even more ambitiously, they are producing their own VR films and then using the New York Times as a distribution channel, as a way to get people to watch their films. So Hilton made an incredible film that takes you swimming underwater. How are you going to see the Hilton VR film? Well, if you partner with the New York Times, we'll put it in the app, and when people are coming to watch the Pluto film, they'll see that Hilton film right in the stream, which is how it worked. And so we've also found, kind of surprisingly, again, this has all been a big experiment, that NYT VR has been a distribution channel beyond just the New York Times journalism. So we had a hip-hop group called Run the Jewels, made a rap music video in virtual reality. And they approached the New York Times and asked if we would distribute their rap music video, which was a first for the Times. So there's all kinds of new opportunities that.
So you said you've already produced, what, a dozen films, and it sounds like there's more with the kind of advertiser contributed kind of content. And how do your users know that there's a new film? I mean, is there a sort of like a schedule, or is it coming out every week? Or
we haven't committed to a schedule yet. We may get to that, but we've been using mobile push alerts to tell people. We've been using the homepage, we're using newsletters, we're using social media, kind of all of the traditional and new ways to get your message out, what we've been exploring. But we found that push alerts actually, because this is such a mobile experience, have been probably the most powerful lever.
Yes, yeah. Okay, getting some questions coming through on Slido. One is whether you're hiring new staff to produce this content, or is it the existing editorial team?
Yeah, we've hired one virtual reality editor. We think it's the first in the American media industry anyways. She was a photo editor who's really technically savvy and took to this new form. So she is now dedicated full-time to virtual reality. And beyond that, we are mostly kind of shared resources. So we've got a handful of people who are video directors who have learned how to use the VR rigs, and now they can go both ways. We've got a product manager who manages a couple of other products in addition to VR. I work on a handful of things in the newsroom in addition to VR. So we're hoping that rather than become kind of a silo off to the side, that virtual reality becomes part of the newsroom's muscles. And this is something that we do in the same way that we make videos or interactive graphics.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the next question is about how you make money, which you sort of addressed a little bit with the advertising interest. But does it look like the amount you can charge the advertisers will cover your investment in
it has so far,
equipment, training, production?
We're making money so far, and we expect that we will by the end of the year. It's worth saying that the technology is changing every week. The cameras are improving, the editing software, it's moving so quickly. So, just 6 months ago when we started, it was incredibly expensive to make one of these films. We're seeing those costs go down dramatically as the technology improves.
Yes, yeah. And obviously you did that rather sort of dramatic distribution, setting it out with the sort of Sunday papers. Obviously that's just your own kind of audience. Have you got any other plans for actually getting the cardboard boxes into people's
We're distributing
hands?
another 300,000 cardboards later this month to our digital subscribers at the time.
Yes.
The first one went to the print subscribers, but all of the giants in the industry, Samsung and Facebook and Google, they all have their own versions of the headsets, and they think that this year into next year will be the year that these headsets start to become more and more mainstream. So Google is separately, without the Times, distributing millions and millions of cardboards all across the country.
Yes.
Samsung announced that its headset, when you buy a new Samsung phone, you get a headset for free. So we see that we did kind of the first mainstream one, and now lots of these big companies are kind of making that bigger push for the headsets.
Yes.
So we want to provide the content once people start to have the things at home.
Yes, yeah, and I think there was a question, I don't know, it's dropped off the bottom, so
Yeah.
saying, where can I buy one? At the moment, because I want one as well.
You should,
So,
yeah.
do you have some in your case, maybe? But I mean, is it just in the US at the moment, you're distributing
No.
this?
I mean, you can buy them on Amazon now.
Yes.
They're sold everywhere. Google designed the cardboard, and then it's open source. So there's lots of manufacturers now. So we have a link, nytimes.com/VR, and there's a link there to buy the cardboard, and you can buy it there.
Sorry, I'm just now reading down the list. I understand why you're giggling, but okay. So I think you talked about ROI. I think we covered that one.
Yeah.
In that
we can talk about motion sickness.
Yeah, we talk about motion. Why don't we talk about motion sickness?
Yeah, that's an issue. And there's all kinds of our VR editors obsess over this. And there's something I don't fully understand the biology of it. But if your brain perceives movement and you don't, then that's when you get motion sickness. So we've been very careful about what kind of films we're doing, what kind of shots.
Slow pans rather than
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
They've even got an acronym inside that. This scene is LTP, likely to puke. So we try to avoid that. There's lots of VR out there. I think this year, as it becomes more and more mainstream, you're going to see lots of places experimenting with VR, and there will be lots of those LTP scenes.
So you don't need a little paper bag along with your cardboard box.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're trying to avoid it. But yeah, that's a risk.
Yeah. Okay. So the next couple of questions really are about choice of subject matter, I suppose, and so are there certain things, travel, science, or whatever, that it works best for? What are you learning in terms of the appeal of different?
That's the most fun thing about it. It's an entirely new editorial question. When we have a story idea, when news breaks, we ask ourselves, is this best told in video or is it in VR? And that's a question, there is no answer to it. We're making this up as we go along. We think that most stories actually are better told as videos. There has to be a really high bar for why this should be in virtual reality. And the way that we think about it is we want virtual reality to take you somewhere, take you to a place you've never been before. It's kind of, it used to be, you know, editors would say, you've got a story idea, and they'd say, okay, that's a pretty good world you've got, but I need a story. It's not, don't just tell me about a place, give me a story there. We've kind of flipped it, so now that someone will have an idea and we say, yeah, that's a good story, but we need a place, a real strong sense of place. So it's kind of a new editorial muscle that we're building, and we're asking that question all the time, but we think that place is even more important than story, perhaps.
Yes, it's maybe exploring
exactly.
a location, whether that's
right.
a news location or a, you know, a more travel related thing. Okay. And a quick question on the app about whether you did that in-house or...
We designed it in-house. We did the technical development, we outsourced to a technical firm in New York that built the app for us, but we designed it in-house. A part of it, it's now a separate app. There is a question of when do we fold virtual reality into the main app. Right now it's working for us to have two separate ones, but down the road I think there is going to be an argument to combine them.
Yeah, no, brilliant. We talked about sponsorship,
yep.
And a good question here about whether you do that in the form of ads or whether it's just branding or association.
Yeah, we are really hoping to avoid, you know, pre-roll in virtual reality. If somebody goes to all the trouble of downloading the thing and putting on the headset, we don't want them to have to sit through an annoying 15-second ad. So right now we're only treating ads as content. You can sit there and watch the GE film, and it's been a little bit, you know, disheartening for the newsroom, though exciting for the business. Some of our most watched films have been ads. The
yes.
GE film is like the number 3 most watched film or something, above many of our newsroom films. So our editors aren't thrilled by that, but I think it's a good sign that people are hungry for content, and
yes.
that good content, whether it's made by the New York Times or made by GE, is going to find an audience.
Yes, yeah, and then you know, good question to finish up with about the cost, you know, the investment required.
Yeah, the VR, there's many stages of virtual reality. Some of these big ticket productions are hugely expensive. As I said, the cameras are improving so much that that barrier to entry is lowering. There's now simple cameras, you know, the size of a remote control, one of them called a Theta camera, that records simple 360 around you. You could record in this room and then post it straight to Facebook, which now supports these kinds of 360 films. So that's not, you know, full-on virtual reality with the headset, but it's a pretty powerful immersive experience that anyone can do on their own, and is a way to experiment in new kinds of storytelling.
Yes, yes. Okay, good question here actually from kind of David Hicks, sort of talking about metrics, I suppose, and like how you can assess how engaged people are apart from the number of views.
Yeah, number of views is one of them. We think time spent is maybe even more valuable. As I said, it's a big commitment. We're asking a lot of people to put on the headset. So we want to see how long they immerse themselves in this world, whether they want to watch another video and keep going, or whether it's a one-shot experience. So we've seen, you know, those first weekends, the time spent was, you know, just through the roof. People were watching films over and over again. One of the most exciting statistics that we've seen is that our biggest day ever was on launch, that first Sunday. But then after that, the next 2 biggest days were on Thanksgiving and on Christmas, which signaled to us that while it seems like it's a pretty solitary experience putting on this headset and headphones, it's actually something that people are sharing, and they're passing this around like, Grandma, you've got to see this.
Yes, yes.
And so we kind of love that idea that VR is for sharing, that virtual reality is for the weekend. So we've been doing lots of Saturday morning, you're at home, here's a push alert, show your kids this VR film that takes you underwater with dolphins.
Okay. We are going to have to finish, but they're just incredibly good questions here.
Yeah.
Talking about the commercial side, what about product placement?
Product placement's interesting. That's something we haven't explored yet. I mean, we treat this as journalism. It's a new fancy technology, but this is the New York Times journalism. We hold it to the same standards and the same rigor. So I don't think product placement makes sense.
No.
We want to be as transparent as possible with the viewer. This is a new, confusing technology. We want people to really be clear about what they're seeing. And so I think product placement at this point wouldn't work for us. But advertisers, as I said, are hugely interested in this medium. And I bet you will be seeing product placement somewhere in the VR landscape.
Yeah. Okay, and then another question about the headset, but I guess you still have this partnership with Google, so that's the
simplest. Those
the
headsets, the Google Cardboard headset you can buy for $15, and it's a great way to get a first taste of virtual reality. Samsung's got a headset that you don't need to hold up. It's got a little strap, and it's made of plastic, and it's a little more substantial and futuristic looking, and it's something like $100, and then all the way up to Oculus, the big one that Facebook has recently launched.
$15 sounds quite reasonable.
It's better. Oculus is something like $1,500.
Yeah.
So
okay.
You got to be really into VR.
Okay, brilliant. We could probably spend the rest of the morning
well,
talking about VR. But thank you so much for coming. That was really, really interesting. Thank you.
Thanks.